Yo, what's going on? I'm Cody from Big Beaver Cards, and we are back looking at another year of the most expensive rookie cards. This time from the NHL, 1988-89 is our destination. So for some of you younger fans, we're probably getting into the territory where a lot of these names are going to start sounding quite familiar. So let's take a look at 88-89. But first, Anthony, roll the intro! Like I was saying, we're continuing on with our rookie retrospective series, and if you don't already know, we've done a lot of years before this. Go to the back catalog and watch those videos, like this one, subscribe. But for now, let's take a look at the honorable mentions list. That's 4 guys this time. We've been having a whole slew of honorable mentions, but in this year, the list is a little tighter, and we do have more than 1 or 2 guys on the actual numbered list. Honorable mentions sound a lot like this. Scott Mellanby. His career probably not known for his time with the Flyers, even though he did have quite a bit of success. His career would be known as a guy who in the, I believe, 1993 expansion draft was not retained and was picked up by an expansion team who also picked up a goaltender we saw, I believe, in last year's video, in the 87-88 video, and that's John Van Beesbroek. This is Scott Mellanby. They both went to the Florida Panthers and went on a memorable run to the Stanley Cup Finals. And I believe Scott Mellanby, who was the captain of that team, is probably most remembered for that run with the Florida Panthers. Scott's got great career stats, very consistent, was able to do a lot of things, was gritty out there, get in the corners, fight for pucks, good around the net, decent set of hands. Like I said, consistent over his entire career. Mellanby definitely does not have the stats to be in a Hall of Fame conversation, but as far as memorable players, I would definitely say he's one of them. And that Florida Panthers team throwing all those rats on the ice, I mean, the NHL to change some rules in regards to that and stuff, is definitely a very memorable season, sealed up, unfortunately, in the overtime period by Uwe Krupp of the Colorado Avalanche to give the Avalanche their first Stanley Cup win and end that run for the Florida Panthers in their first season. Moving along to the right of Mr. Mellanby, and a little south of him as well, is Sean Burke. We see him here in a New Jersey Devils outfit. I think of him with the New Jersey Devils, playing with Chris Terreri. Obviously with the Hartford Whalers is another place you're going to think of Sean Burke. And if you're a Canadian, unfortunately, Sean Burke, who was an excellent goalie throughout his entire career, did not play on a lot of playoff teams, was very consistently a goaltender on underachieving teams, which gave Sean Burke the opportunity to play for his nation quite frequently in the World Championships. Now, for those of you that know a bit about professional hockey, the World Championships are played a lot of the times right in accordance with the first round of the playoffs, and guys that get eliminated early in the first round sometimes make the actual like gold medal games and stuff for the World Championships, depending on who the player is and where the World Championships are being held. So but Sean Burke played a lot of World Championships for Canada, winning some gold medals. So Sean Burke, definitely a very memorable national goalie for Canada. And Sean Burke had a stellar NHL career that spanned a good period of time. Starting goalie, very consistent, like I was saying, just a everyday type of guy, much like Scott Mellanby out there flying around for forwards. Sean Burke between the pipes, very, very similar. We move to the right of Sean, and we take a look at a man who will punch your lights out, or would have, the late Bob Probert. Bob Probert for the Detroit Red Wings, obviously most remembered for just fisticuffs. Joey Kosar's, Crowder. I'm trying to think all the guys that he fought. Who are some of the other ones from those late 80s, early 90s? They're Bob Probert on some of the old Don Cherry's Rock'em Sock'em videos. Just has a litany of battles he was in, absolute wars with guys that would go back and forth over the course of years every time their teams met, sometimes twice in a night. And we're talking about when NHL teams had a guy that was an enforcer basically it all. You had Dave Manson's out there, Dave Brown. You had some scary dudes walking around in the NHL at this time, and Bob Probert might have been the scariest of them all after we had Dave Semenko retire, of course. I mean, Bob and Dave Semenko never really crossed paths and did a lot of intermingling. Semenko was a big guy. Probert pretty much known for having steel hands, though. That would have been a very interesting tussle. Bob Probert, though, memorable Detroit Red Wing. And I would imagine as far as any fan of the Red Wings go, he's probably looked at with a handful of guys, at least from the semi-modern era, as a irreplaceable member of the Red Wings. You don't think Red Wings without thinking Fedorov, Yzerman, Bob Probert. I mean, right? Moving along beside Bob is a defenseman who was definitely known more for his scoring prowess than he was known for his defensive work, even though defensive work was pretty solid. A guy who moved around the league a little bit, played for a few different teams, was a hell of a cycler with the puck, got out of his own zone, fantastic, great first pass, very fast skater for a defenseman, never a guy really caught out of position on the offense. When he was in the power play, anything like that. Steve Duchesne was a heck of a force out there, played with a lot of good players. Coaches seem to know how to utilize Steve Duchesne well. Like I said, is a guy that moved around a little bit. You're kind of surprised all the time when you see these offensive defensemen who don't really find a spot and settle there, because offensive defensemen are kind of difficult to find. It's not like everybody's Nicholas Lidstrom, where you are an A1 defensive defenseman and an A1 offensive defenseman. Steve Duchesne was definitely a 1B offensive defenseman, and paired with the right defensive guys, I mean, ultimately probably could have spent a whole career in one place. Heck of a puck mover, like I was saying, great vision on the ice. And finally, the last of our honorable mentions, a guy who did play beside a 1A defenseman, Glenn Wesley, playing alongside Ray Bourque over in Boston, was in Boston for a while. Anybody who remembers the 88 finals, the 90 finals, Glenn Wesley was obviously a big part of those Bruin teams. Those Bruin teams were very strong, and Wesley was a first-line defensive pairing. He was good right off the hop. Obviously, none of these guys are going to be in the conversation for any type of Hall of Fames, but I thought these guys from this list were all very, very memorable, and an honorable mention spot didn't seem too off base. Let's get to the list. Number 4, Pierre Turgeon. I don't know if maybe the most memorable thing about Pierre is being cross-checked and injured from behind by Dale Hunter in, I want to say, the 88 first round of the playoffs, when the Islanders, not the Sabres, eliminated the Capitals. I want to say that's maybe, but Pierre Turgeon, for those who don't know, is the highest scoring NHLer in history not to be nominated into the Hockey Hall of Fame. So that in and of itself is a pretty astounding statistic, and probably leads you to believe that our boy Pierre is probably not long for being on the outside looking in. Here you see him in the Buffalo Sabres, obviously moved around a bit in his career, phenomenal point scorer, was a guy that did kind of blend into the background, was maybe never in that superstar conversation. It reminds me a lot of a guy like Patrice Bergeron, who I think is probably mad underrated for the talent and consistency he's brought for an entire career. I think Pierre Turgeon, much like that, and especially when you move a few times to different places, it's a lot more difficult to have a hometown fan base really decide that, just because the other cities don't recognize you as being that good, we definitely know. And a guy like Bergeron has the luxury of being in Boston that whole time. Turgeon, on the other hand, moved around a bit, maybe didn't have a chance to set up those foundations, but is a guy who at some point will be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. All these cards going to be O-Pee-Chee again. 194 in this set. Here you see a PSA 9. I'm not sure why this is 87-88 Pierre Turgeon, a rookie. It's obviously 88-89, but they can call it whatever they like. This card, $43.15 American. Obviously some demand, 24 bids. Shipping looks like it was about $16 for a PSA 9. Cheaper than grading. You're looking maybe $65, $75 Canadian. That price seems very, very reasonable to me for a PSA 9. Pop count is 929, maxing the 10s out at 77 only. We're still not seeing a whole lot of 10s, even though the demand for Pierre Turgeon, 929, it's a pretty decent little demand for a guy not in the Hall of Fame yet. And Raw probably going to pay for a decent version of this card somewhere in the $10 range. And now, moving to number 3, we get into guys that are definitely superstars from their era. This one in particular broke his career up over 2 different mainstay stops. The first one, a Stanley Cup in Calgary, here giving my Oilers hell in the Battle of Alberta in the late 80s through the early to mid 90s. Joe Nieuwendyk here with the Flames, card number 16 in this set. Joe also moved on and gave my Oilers some more hell with the Dallas Stars in the second half of the 90s. Got himself another cup. We appreciate that, Joe. Well, we got the point the first time. You could have maybe went to the East and gave up Jersey hell or something. But thanks for that, Mr. Nieuwendyk. I actually watched him score in, I believe it was overtime. Third overtime, I want to say, here in Edmonton. 99 to eliminate us from the playoffs. Really was beautiful. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate all that. Appreciate the memories, my friend. PSA 10 for Mr. Nieuwendyk. 365.21 this went for. That's a Gem Mint 10. 33 bids. That's American. Probably in Canada, a PSA 10. There are only 85 of them. You're probably going to pay somewhere in the range of about $500. That seems very fair. Joe Nieuwendyk, very consistent. What a playmaker, goal scorer. It just beautiful with the puck. Like, I mean, just elegant. It's almost a crime to be as good at the game of hockey as a guy like Joe Nieuwendyk was. Yeah, I don't like you. You did too much to my team personally. Anyways, PSA pop count, total 752 only. Maybe that's because he played in Canada and Turgeon played in the United States. I'm not sure why Joe Nieuwendyk wouldn't be getting more attention than that. 85 10s, like I said, raw, going to cost you probably $12 to $15 Canadian. That seems more than fair. Joe Nieuwendyk was a phenomenal hockey player, and I take it all back, Joe. I love you, buddy. You're a stud. It's tough to hate a stud as good as you. Number 2, another stud who would also punch you in the face and win all the checking in the corners and could probably score better than you, was just an all-around hockey player. Your prototypical Mark Messier leader type who left it all on the ice. Number 2 on this list, and a Hockey Hall of Famer for sure, Brendan Shanahan. Here you see him with the New Jersey Devils, maybe most known for his time with the Red Wings, but it's tough to tell. Mr. Shanahan did move around to a couple of teams, was probably 5 or 6 teams maybe before it was all said and done. Heck of a hockey player. Just gross. It's, again, should be illegal to be this good at something. This card is 122 in the 88-89 set. A PSA 8, only going to run you about $70, $75 Canadian. That seems criminal. The total pop count for PSA is 1370. You only got 37 10s though. Wow, this card is a difficult one to pull a 10 out of. Raw, 15, $20, definite demand, 16 bids you see there. You're going to pay a bit, but Brendan Shanahan, I don't think there's anybody out there that knows the game of hockey going to debate the worth of Brendan Shanahan, and having a rookie card of his in your collection probably isn't going to make you sad at night. Now is it? Moving to number 1, another one that won't make you sad. And young fans, old fans, it's not going to need me explaining a whole lot to you how this is one of the greatest goal scorers that ever played the game of hockey. Yeah, he's definitely in the top 5 of just pure goal scorers. Just bury it. It's ridiculous. Brett Hull, son of Bobby Hull, obviously a pair, father and son, Hall of Famers. This card, 66 in the set. Brett Hull was originally was it a Calgary Flame? I want to say it was. This is a St. Louis Blue card, and I think we all know that Brett Hull played his career with the St. Louis Blues, but I want to say that Brett Hull initially was drafted by the Calgary Flames. So I bet you Calgary wishes they didn't give up Brett. He could have played with Joe Nieuwendyk. That probably would have been as good as playing with Adam Oates. Card number 66 in this set, a PSA 9 for Brett Hull, and justifiably so, who was easily number 1 on this list, despite how good Shanahan and Nieuwendyk were. A PSA 9 going to run you in the range of $275 to $300. That actually seems a little cheap for a guy as good as Brett Hull. PSA pop count, 2,645. Still only 62 10s. What the? All right. Maybe the 8 and 9s, I guess, are just a little cheaper because 10s are just so rare. What the? That's crazy, eh? A raw card of this, still going to be about $40 in nice shape. This says near mint plus condition. Why wouldn't you have it slabbed? I'll take his word for it, though. We'll call it $40. Brett Hull, easily number 1 in 1988-89. I'm Cody. We're Big Beaver Cards. If you made it this far and you haven't subscribed, you should be tested. I don't know what to tell you. Subscribe, like the video, stay cool. Anthony, roll the outro.